All right, guys. This is smallcapstradingpodcast, June 8, 2024. Uh, as always, the stuff we discuss in this video is not a financial advice. Do your own research. We already did a video about GME stuff today, and on this video, we're going to cover MLGO and the day after, because this week two big events happened. It wasn't just Jimmy. We did have MLGO and the day after, and we did discuss in this video, in this podcast before about possible X1 days, and it was fortunate that it came again. And I think this is gonna be a productive video as far as reiterating some stuff, and we're gonna talk over. But yeah, Mo, you're gonna take over.
No doubt, yeah. So we got a Black Swan on Tuesday with MLGO, and for those that don't know, a Black Swan is when something goes you know an insane amount of percentage, not 200, not 300, not 400, not 500. Like maybe some things could be considered Black Swan 500, but I didn't do the research on this. My instinct says nah. Black Swan is just something that goes really crazy, but that not just goes crazy, it goes crazy on volume. It goes like a Black Swan is something that goes absolutely silly in percentage gain wise, but on large volume where it's the focal point for all retail traders on that day. That's sort of the classic Black Swan. And so if you take a look at MLGO came from whatever, like $1 and change. It went to $15. That's obviously percentage, right? It did about 1,000, about a 10x 10 bagger or so. It did it on almost 200 million volume. That's remarkable. And there wasn't let's see what was going with it on that day. I see. ALBT. So obviously MLGO is a China, Cayman Island, whatever type style name, and so on the day that MLGO ran, some other stuff ran with it, the WIMI, CCM, sort of a little bit of the China sympathies. But really, it was just this. And as far as talking about this is concerned, so there's a certain type of dynamics to Black Swans and the day after Black Swans that repeats itself over and over and over again most times. And the dynamic is, on the day of the Black Swan, don't short it. And when I say don't short it, I don't mean know that this is going to be a Black Swan and don't short it. No, you got caught on it that day. I got caught on it that day. But there needs to be this recognition where you're like, okay, the conditions, the way that Black Swan happens is that it's the things I said in the morning. It goes, it's the focal point of the day for retailers on extremely high volume, and it's doing a really, really ridiculous move, right? And so there's sort of one more variable that we can, try and put into this, which is the pre-market thing. And so typically the classic, one of the more classic indicators, if you will, of something has potential Black Swan in it, outside of it being, so me and you talk a lot about the pre-market highs and over those highs and what does that mean and all that stuff, right? And you tend to have this sort of really high respect for something that goes over pre-market highs. You get really, really scared to short it over pre-market highs. And I think that the reason why you're scared of it is because sometimes when right. And so for you, it's like a little bit hard to, like, you see me, I'll short stuff over pre-market highs, and you'll ask me, but aren't you scared? And you know what I mean? And that's a conversation for another time. But generally speaking, it overtook pre-market highs. I mean, what is pre-market high? So back up for a second. This came from a dollar 50, and oh yeah, I'm remembering this trade now. I took a loss on it pre-market. Yeah, okay, I remember this. I traded this in the pre-market, dude. And I covered into here some, but I left some on. And then as soon as this one overtook pre-market highs, I was out on it. I remember now. And so the point is, this came from a buck 50, and it put its pre-market high at $5.50. That's enormous. That's like a triple, you know. And so so now every pre-market highs are built the same, right? But when you're talking about something that tripled in the pre-market, and now it's overtaking that triple, that's when you don't know what this can do, right? So you take because to refocus the thread of the thought that I'm trying to convey here is, I started this by saying, you know, Black Swans and days after Black Swans have a very particular dynamic that repeats itself over and over and over again. And there's a lot of money to be made understanding that dynamic that repeats itself over and over and over again. And from the short perspective, what I said was, don't short this. I hope that makes extremely clear what you do on the opposite side, on the long side, right? You buy fucking dips. You buy keep, support. You buy VWAP, etc. But on the short side, you don't short this, and you're like, what do you mean don't short this? Like, how do you know? Like, and so look, I took a loss on it, right? There is a moment that there's a moment that you're like, okay, this has Black Swan potential written all over it, and the conditions for a Black Swan are, it's the focal point of the day, it's doing crazy moves, it's over pre-market highs. In this case, it's a China name. Throw that into the.
11 a.m. You said
Say again?
it breaks the highs after 11 a.m.
Right. All. Thank you. A wonderful, a very, very real one. Yes. And the reason why Molly is saying that is because, for those of you that don't know, as far as day one gappers, on the statistics side of things, about 70% or so of day one gappers have their high of the day between 9:30 and 11 a.m. And so that's a piece of statistics that is so ingrained into me that I take it for granted. But that's why I'm always saying that, and that's incredibly true. And so you have all these so-called warnings, the warning flags, right? And so the point when I say, maybe I shouldn't have said don't short it, because of course I did, and I took a loss. But the point is, recognize, right? Like, because we go back to the conversation in the last video that we had, if anyone want to watch that one, where I talk about, trading to me is about finding a situation that I could put as much scale, as much risk on in the most comfortable way possible. And I know that, like, a lot of dudes, they get so excited trading these small caps that to go $1 to $5. That was literally the example I gave in the last video, not even thinking about MLGO, which went $1 to $5, right? And they get so excited seeing this thing go $1 to $5. They're like, yay, I'm going to hit this. And most time they'll be right. But to parrot to the things I said in the last video, oftentimes they don't understand the risk that they're really taking. Whereas me, I get so excited by stuff like FFIE and big floats because I know that the risk is so much less. So that's why I feel comfortable getting so much bigger in size. And so I end up making more money. And this is the flip side of that. This is why I do the things that I do the way that I do them, why I'm attracted to the lesser, crazier things. But in any case, so that's the Black Swan dynamics. That's what happened. And the way that the Black Swan dynamic almost always works is that on the day of the Black Swan, you don't get too many sympathies. You get a sympathy here, a sympathy there. But the thing is that people are so laser focused on this one thing, both longs and shorts, that it causes this to turn into a vehicle that essentially finds every short seller's stop and hits it. And because why? Because longs and shorts are all focused on this. Like, you don't have a lot of like sympathies on the side because all the longs are there. Why? Because they're making money. Because every dip works. And so all they're doing is adding and adding and adding, and they're making money. You know what I mean? And so they're not out there in other names trying to push other names. Not really. They don't need to. And shorts don't get other sympathies on that day because longs are not chasing anything else. And so the
Mm.
shorts are all here in this name. That so are the longs. And right now, on this particular day, it's a black swan. It's an instrument that is searching for all the short stops and hitting all those short stops. And if you could see that behavior right here, right? It was done, right? It was done, bro. But it's not. It's designed to find the stops in when it becomes this sort of a thing. And so and so on the day of the black swan, um, you know, really just stay away. Take your losses. I took my losses, right? Take your
Yeah.
losses if you're short, um, and wait for tomorrow, because just like the day of a black swan has its own dynamics that I sort of just described, the day after a black swan has its own dynamics as well, which are reversed. So what happens on the day after Black Swan is typically all the 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 hard to borrow shorts and all our type of dudes. We lost a lot of money. Like some people are gone. Like they blew up their account. Unfortunately I had multiple messages of people saying, "Fuck, man, I lost." You know, 10% of my entire capital today. I had to do 50% of his entire capital, 30% of their entire account. I mean, shorts take really big losses on this kind of a day, and longs make a lot of money on that day, and there's not a lot of sympathies. So what happens the next day? A lot of shorts are
You
gone. Yeah, go ahead.
uh, Before you go to next day, I was just gonna say something about when you said like, how do you know it's the black swan? Because this is I asked this so many times, and I kind of started to find my own answer. I took a loss pre-market high, and I never tried again. Like it opened it as soon as it took, like you said. What I realized is like when I ask you how you know this can turn into black swan, how do you know this can turn into black swan? What I realize is like most of the day one gappers 100%, 150, 200. But like if they gap up 500, they usually really give a nice fade, or like 100 to then they dance 100%, 150. That's the fight area until 11 a.m. They do their thing. But if I see something gaps up this much percentage and it takes out and it holds, I'm like,
It doesn't really
okay,
fade, right? Like this
I'm
is
not
not what
gonna
you're right.
yeah, I'm not gonna pick a fight with you because there's really no need. I don't see this that often. It's not really my regular day one gapper just putting a fight to clear us. This just broke out and just held. So unless you wanna fight, that never, it never told you, hey, I'm a short again, until it really told you I'm a black swan. And that day, we were talking in the group that like I don't think anything is a short today because everything will be short tomorrow. I'm not gonna fight anymore, and I didn't trade anymore. I just took my loss and I waited for the next day,
Right.
because that's what you did a lot, and I see you did a lot. So that was the thing
Correct.
that day.
Correct. And I did the similar, and that's a great observation. Is that one of the other potential markers of a black swan is that its initial move is really big, but the fade that it gives after that initial move is not very deep, which normally things that move that much will give deep fades. And eventually, so that's you're really nailing it on the head with that and with the pre-market stuff, man. Thank you. And so, hi, baby girl. That's an odd place to kiss and hug me. Um, so, um, so great stuff. Anything else on that before we move on to the day after?
No, no, you can go to next day. I just want to point that out that I saw it, something
Yep,
that you
good
were
point.
telling.
Good point. Yep. And so going back to the train of thought. So the day after the Black Swan, what happens is the reverse of the day. The in the Black Swan day, it's concentrations of longs and shorts into a single name, and lots of shorts on that name. The next day, what you get is people want the next Black Swan, and they just made a lot of money, and they're willing to longs just made a lot of money, and they're willing to spend that money into chasing a bunch of different things which is the exact opposite of their behavior the day before. And so they're spreading their volume around a bunch of different names, unconcentrated. And
Hmm.
the same is true for shorts. Shorts are behaving in the opposite way to the day before, which is they're not really showing up, man. Like um, they're a bunch of the dudes that were short the day before, they got smoked, so they're not showing up because they can't. And a lot of the dudes that like didn't blow up or lose half their capital or whatever, but did take serious losses still. You might have taken like a like a 5% loss on your capital. That's a lot, dude. You might have taken 3% of loss on your capital, and you're just mentally you're drained. You're drained mentally, man. And so you get a lot of shorts that don't show up because they can't, or they just mentally can't. And so the result is the exact opposite environment than the day before. The day of the Black Swan, longs and shorts all concentrated into a single name. Best of luck to you, shorts. The next day, a bunch of different names running, all all like long heavy, with not a lot of shorts anywhere. Good luck to you longs in that environment. You know what I mean? So that's really it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And so me and you both took losses on the Black Swan day, but me and you both made multiples of that loss the next day. And you had your best day ever, which is a substantial multiple of your previous best day.
Yeah.
um, and so that's the game. Questions, thoughts? Should we talk about something?
No, no. I mean, for I guess next day, what I've been realizing, because that was my third post Black Swan that I since I really started diving in with you. That was Holo FFI, and this was the third one. And what
That's the
you
okay.
or fourth, third or fourth? Did anything happen after Holo?
I think that from the first time that I brought up the post Swan day to you and Brian, I think there was more than three, but it don't matter. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing that you said also, post Black Swan days, you get triggers. You don't really have to chase and do anything because the volume is so high. People are chasing left and right. Those are the best days. Really, I get what I want. I get those best bounces, the perfect. Like I don't
Perception
wait. I don't
behavior.
chase. If I think it is a short, I'm not gonna wait for perfect. But you really get it. I want to short as much as possible, but you also get so many triggers that you don't really get that often. I guess that's a gift that you don't really have to try to chase things. They come to you a lot on that day.
Right, because people are very chase happy, so
Yeah.
they're gonna go ahead and chase, um, but they're not recognizing that it takes a particular environment to be favorable, for chases, and there's also a particular environment that's incredibly um, favorable to chases. Now, here's the thing: is that I know we keep on doing this from the short perspective, and I know that the three viewers that we have are all shorts probably, but from the long perspective you can still reverse engineer this and do great, because the way that the post Black Swan days work is that you go for the theme, right? So MLGO is China, so we got a lot of China movers on the pre-market. And the way that post Black Swans work is that you sort of, okay, so this is going to get a little bit in the weeds. Excuse me, but I got to back it up a little bit. But the cycle that we were in was a cycle that was decreasing in strength and decreasing in strength when MLGO came. So when MLGO came, yes, it was a black swan, but it was in a weaker and weaker general small cap cycle environment. And so the post Black Swan days, cycle still matters, right? In a strong cycle, on the post Black Swan days, you'll get tons and tons of runners, and they'll run a lot of percentages. On a weaker cycle, you'll get less runners, and they'll run less percentages. And you have to just pay attention to that and say, okay, what kind of a post Swan day am I getting? And me and you, we had our finger on the pulse of the cycle. We knew this was not the strongest of cycles, and so all that to say that when you come into the the post Swan day, um, you really know that you're going to get a bunch of runners, and the question you're asking yourself is, are they all going to be 100, 150% and done, or 250, 300% and done, or is this like the post DWAC day where they're all going 5, 600% and then they're done? You know what I mean? You have to figure that part of the equation and then play it correctly. But you can reverse engineer that, or sorry, not reverse engineer that, but just reverse it, where you can say, all right, cool. So the theme is China, right? For this particular post Swan day. On my scanner, everything that's China and that's moving, because really, like, the minimum that you're asking things to move, expecting things to move on a post Swan day is sort of 100%. That's really the minimum, 100, 150 plus. And so, from the long perspective, anything that's coming up on your scanner that's China, that's up 10%, 20%, 30%, bro, that's a long. That's a long. And not all of them are going to go, but the ones that are going to go, they're going to go 100, 150, plus, depending on the strength of this particular post Swan day. And so you try to buy a bunch of 20, 30% theme relevant movers, and those that are going to just um, round trip back, you lost 30% on. And those that went, you made 50% on, 100% on, 150% on, whatever.
Yeah.
So the cycle for the post Swan day is so repetitive. I mean, this is how it is. All of the I could think of like one or two times in all these years, that it wasn't like that. And so you can take it from the long, take it from the short, but you know what it's going to be on both. You know what I mean? So on both sides of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess we can close out with the question: how are you going to Monday? Like everything happened, GME and MLG. Like, are you expecting weaker action now since we just faded all day Friday in all?
um, well, on a very, very general sense, I do still think cycle is slightly weakening, but I said that before MLGO, and I was like, but something can always happen, and MLGO happened.
Yeah.
So MLGO did happen, and I mean, the cycle was still weak, but like MLGO still happened, and so what we got was a post Swan day, but it was a weak post Swan day. Still great, but still in a weaker and weaker cycle. And I worry that, first of all, like, GME, man, like, the king is naked. You know what I mean? Like, if you know that metaphor, that children's story about the king's new clothes, the king is naked, and we all see it. And so normally I would like not really put too much of a focus on GME in these types of situations, but seeing what a different kitty we got, and I think that even his own followers lost a lot of respect, and I think that adding to the fact that if he really didn't hedge his position in a different account by any of the so many different ways that he could hedge his positions, then those options have an expiry date on them, and it comes with certain understood price dynamics that are about to happen. And so I'm a trade GME, which is something I normally wouldn't do in this part of where it's at. But I'm a trade GME next week for sure, and I'm gonna trade FFIE separately from GME for sure. Because I think that FFIE, go to the last video, see what my thoughts are there. I think we got a really, really, it was as good as it could possibly get for them, and it didn't really do much. So
Yeah.
best of luck to them longs, and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
there on
But
the
if
other
FIA
side.
comes, I'm gonna trade too.
Say
If
again?
FIA, I said if FIA comes for sure, I'm gonna trade it too. I don't know if I
Right.
can find my spot in GME at those levels, but FFI, I feel like we talked enough that I can get a grasp on. And I think it is one of my best stickers right now as far as PNL FFI. It's just the cash
That's
cow
what I was
machine.
telling you. That's what I was saying last week. It's a profit center. It's a daily driver. It's a thing that you got to know your days, right? You got to know when to walk away. But it's just, I
Mhm.
mean, day after day after day after day, like wherever they push it to, I'll sell into. I'll sell there, right?
Yeah,
And and so that's really all I can say about next week. Other than I pray that I worry that the cycle is going to get tremendously weak from here on out because the cycle is, of course, we're referring to the small cap cycle, and the small cap cycle, bro, people got absolutely fleeced. I mean, my heart goes out to the shorts that like lost on MLGO or on GME or whatever, but my heart also goes out to the longs. They got absolutely wrecked on GameStop, and not just on GameStop. Moon Market. I don't know if you've been following
yeah,
his
I saw that
coin,
on Twitter. Yeah,
right? So he just, absolutely fleeced all of his followers. And I have this general idea that a lot, like us shorts, our small cap shorts, we're dependent on the small cap longs, on the retail longs that bring the stocks to the prices where we want to short them. And I worry that they just got absolutely demolished between all these things, that dumb ass moon coin. Oh my god, and GME and all that stuff. And so I'm a little bit worried that they got too wrecked. Too wrecked.
yeah,
But that's why I still see GME and FFIE as opportunities because I don't. But let's hope that we get more. The cycle continues its ups and downs. I mean, the year was strong. The year, every time cycle takes a breath, it comes back. So let's hope that keeps going. But I explain what my worries are and why.
yeah. Fair, fair. Well, thank you a lot for the feedbacks, and I think it was a good episode. Not super long, but we did cover a lot. So let's cut it here, and we'll be back next week.
Yes, sir.